and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Wyenberg. This time we will continue our reading of Have Spacesuit Will Travel by Robert Heinlein. Our narrator and protagonist, Kip, has been through some harrowing adventures on the moon and on Pluto, but now he is safe on the fifth planet of Vega in the hospital, being largely regrown. They were harrowing adventures, but he feels fine, and he tells us about it. Pee Wee did come back, but not real often. I wasn't offended, not much. She had 1,000 interesting and educational things to poke her ubiquitous nose into, all new and fascinating. She was as busy as a pup chewing slippers. She ran our hosts ragged. But I wasn't bored. I was getting well, a full-time job, and not boring if you were happy, which I was. I didn't see the mother thing often. I began to realize that she had work of her own to do, even though she came to see me if I asked for her, with never more than an hour's delay, and never seemed in a hurry to leave. She wasn't my doctor nor my nurse. Instead, I had a staff of veterinarians who were alert to supervise every heartbeat. They didn't come in unless I asked them to. A whisper was as good as a shout. But I soon realized that my room was bugged and telemetered like a ship in a flight test, and my bed was a mass of machinery, gear that bore the relation to our own mechanical hearts and mechanical lungs and mechanical kidneys that a Lockheed ultrasonic courier does to a baby carriage. I never saw that gear. They never lifted the spread unless it was while I slept. But I know what they were doing. They were encouraging my body to repair itself, not scar tissue, but the way it had been. Any lobster can do this, and starfish do it so well that you can chop them to bits and wind up with 1,000 brand new starfish. This is a trick any animal should do, since its gene pattern is in every cell, but a few million years ago we lost it. Everybody knows that science is trying to recapture it. You see articles, optimistic ones in Reader's Digest, discouraged ones in Scientific Monthly, wildly wrong ones in magazines whose science editors seem to have received their training writing horror stories. But we're working on it. Someday, if anybody dies an accidental death, it will be because he bled to death on the way to the hospital. Here I was with a perfect chance to find out about it, and I didn't. I tried. Although I was unworried by what they were doing, the mother thing had told me not to worry, and every time she visited me, she looked in my eyes and repeated the injunction. Nevertheless, like Pee Wee, I liked to know. Pick a savage so far back in the jungle that they don't even have installment plan buying. Say he has an IQ of 190 and Pee Wee's yen to understand. Dump him into Brookhaven Atomic Labs. How much will he learn? With all possible help. He'll learn which corridors lead to what rooms, and he'll learn that a purple trefoil means danger. That's all. Not because he can't, remember, he's a super genius, but he needs 20 years schooling before he can ask the right questions and understand the answers. I asked questions and always got answers and formed notions, but I'm not going to record them. They are as confused and contradictory as the notions a savage would form about design and operation of atomic equipment. As they say in radio, when noise level reaches a certain value, no information is transmitted. All I got was noise. Some of it was literally noise. I'd ask a question, and one of the therapists would answer. I would understand part. Then, as it reached the key point, I would hear nothing but bird songs. Even with the mother thing as an interpreter, the parts I had no background for would turn out to be a canary's cheerful prattle. Hold on to your seats. I'm going to explain something I don't understand. How Pee Wee and I could talk with the mother thing, even though her mouth could not shape English and we couldn't sing the way she did and had not studied her language. The Vegans, I'll call them Vegans the way we might be called Solarians. Their real name sounds like a wind chime in a breeze. The mother thing had a real name too, but I'm not a coloratura soprano. Pee Wee used it when she wanted to wheedle her, fat lot of good it did her. The Vegans have a supreme talent to understand, to put themselves in the other person's shoes. I don't think it was telepathy, or I wouldn't have gotten so many wrong numbers. Call it empathy. but they have it in various degrees, just as all of us drive cars, but only a few are fit to be racing car drivers. The mother thing had it the way Novaeus understands a piano. I once read about an actress who could use Italian so effectively to a person who did not understand Italian that she always made herself understood. She must have had what the mother thing had. The first words I had with the mother thing were things like hello and goodbye and thank you and where are we going. She could project her meaning with those. Shucks, you can talk to a strange dog that much. Later, I began to understand her speech as speech. She picked up meanings of English words even faster. She had this great talent, and she and Pee Wee had talked for days while they were prisoners. But while this is easy for you're welcome and I'm hungry and let's hurry, it gets harder for ideas like heterodining and amino acid, even when both are familiar with the concept. When one party doesn't even have the concept, it breaks down. That's the trouble I had understanding those veterinarians. If we had all spoken English, I still would not have understood. An oscillating circuit sends out a radio signal but produces dead silence unless there is another circuit capable of oscillating the same way to receive it. I wasn't on the right frequency. Nevertheless, I understood them when the talk was not highbrow. They were nice people. They talked and laughed a lot and seemed to like each other. I had trouble telling them apart, except the mother thing. I learned that the only marked difference to them between Pee Wee and myself was that I was ill and she wasn't. They had no trouble telling each other apart. Their conversations were interlarded with musical names until you felt you were caught in Peter and the Wolf or a Wagnerian opera. They even had a leitmotif for me. Their talk was cheerful and gay, like the sounds of a bright summer dawn. The next time I meet a canary, I'll know what he's saying, even if he doesn't. I picked up some of this from Pee Wee. A hospital bed is not a good place from which to study a planet. Vega 5 has Earth surface gravity near enough, with an oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water life cycle. The planet would not suit humans, not only because the noonday sun would strike you dead with its jolt of ultraviolet, but also the air has poisonous amounts of ozone. A trace of ozone is stimulating, but a trifle more, well, you might as well sniff prussic acid. There was something else too, nitrous oxide, I think, which was ungood for humans if breathed too long. My quarters were air conditioned. The Vegans could breathe what I used, but they considered it tasteless. I learned a bit as a byproduct of something else. The mother thing asked me to dictate how I got mixed up in these things. When I finished, she asked me to dictate everything I knew about Earth, its history, and how we work and live together. This is a tall order. I'm not still dictating because I found out I don't know much. Take ancient Babylonia. How is it related to early Egypt? I had only vague notions. Maybe Pee Wee did better since she remembers everything she has heard or read or seen the way Dad does, but they probably didn't get her to hold still long, whereas I had to. The mother thing wanted this for reasons we study Australian Aborigines and also as a record of our language. There was another reason, too. The job wasn't easy, but there was a Vegan to help me whenever I felt like it, willing to stop if I tired. Call him Professor Josephus Egghead. Professor is close enough, and his name can't be spelled. I called him Joe, and he called me the leitmotif that means Clifford Russell, the monster with the frostbite. Joe had almost as much gift for understanding as the mother thing. But how do you put over ideas like tariffs and kings to a person whose people have never had either? The English words were just noise. But Joe knew histories of many peoples and planets and could call up scenes in moving stereo and color until we agreed on what I meant. We jogged along with me dictating to a silvery ball floating near my mouth, and with Joe curled up like a cat on a platform raised to my level, while he dictated to another microphone, making running notes on what I said. The mic had a gimmick that made it a hush phone. I did not hear him unless he spoke to me. Then we would stumble. Joe would stop and throw me a sample scene, his best guess of what I meant. The pictures appeared in the air, positioned for my comfort. If I turned my head, the picture moved to accommodate me. The pics were color stereo television with perfect life and sharpness. Well, give us another 20 years and we'll have them as realistic. It was a good trick to have the projector concealed and to force images to appear as if they were hanging in air. But those are just gimmicks of stereo optics. We can do them anytime we really want to. After all, you can pack a lifelike view of the Grand Canyon into a viewer you can hold in your hand. The thing that did impress me was the organization behind it. I asked Joe about it. He sang to his microphone and we went on a galloping tour of their congressional library. Dad claims that library science is the foundation of all sciences, just as math is the key, and that we will survive or founder depending on how well the librarians do their jobs. Librarians didn't look glamorous to me, but maybe Dad had hit on a not very obvious truth. This library had hundreds, maybe thousands of vegans viewing pictures and listening to soundtracks, each with a silvery sphere in front of him. Joe said they were telling the memory. This was equivalent to typing a card for a library's catalog, except that the result was more like a memory path in brain cells. 9/10 of that building was an electronic brain. I spotted a triangular sign like the costume jewelry worn by the Motherthing, but the picture jumped quickly to something else. Joe also wore one, and others did not. But I did not get around to asking about it, as the sight of that incredible library brought up the word cybernetics, and we went on a detour. I decided later that it might be a lodge pin or like a Phi Beta Kappa key. The Motherthing was smart even for a vegan, and Joe was not far behind. Whenever Joe was sure that he understood some English word, he would wriggle with delight like a puppy being tickled. He was very dignified, but this is not undignified for a vegan. Their bodies are so fluid and mobile that they smile and frown with the whole works. A vegan holding perfectly still is either displeased or extremely worried. The sessions with Joe let me tour places from my bed. The difference between primary school and university caused me to be shown examples. A kindergarten looks like an adult vegan being overwhelmed by babies. It had the innocent rowdiness of a collie pup stepping on his brother's face to reach the milk dish. But the university was a place of quiet beauty, strange looking trees and plants and flowers among buildings of surrealistic charm unlike any architecture I have ever seen. I suppose I would have been flabbergasted if they'd looked familiar. Parabolas were used a lot, and I think all the straight lines had that swelling the Greeks call entasis, delicate grace with strength. Joe showed up one day simply undulating with pleasure. He had another silvery ball, larger than the other two. He placed it in front of me, then sang to his own. I want you to hear this, Kip. As soon as he ceased, the larger sphere spoke in English. I want you to hear this, Kip. Squirming with delight, Joe swapped spheres and told me to say something. What do you want me to say? I asked. What do you want me to say? The larger sphere sang in Vegan. That was my last session with Professor Joe. Despite unstinting help, despite the mother thing's ability to make herself understood, I was like the Army mule at West Point, an honorary member of the student body, but not prepared for the curriculum. I never did understand their government. Oh, they had government, but it wasn't any system I've ever heard of. Joe knew about democracies and representation and voting and courts of law. He could fish up examples from many planets. He felt that democracy was a very good system for beginners. It would have sounded patronizing, except that is not one of their faults. I never met one of their young. Joe explained that children should not see strange creatures until they had learned to feel understanding sympathy. That would have offended me if I hadn't been learning some understanding sympathy myself. Matter of fact, if a human 10-year-old saw a vegan, he would either run or poke it with a stick. I tried to learn about their government from the mother thing, in particular, how they kept the peace, laws, crimes, punishments, traffic regulations, etc. It was as near to flat failure as I ever had with her. She pondered a long time, then answered, how can one possibly act against one's own nature? I guess their worst vice was that they didn't have any. That can be tiresome. The medical staff were interested in the drugs in Oscar's helmet, like our interest in a witch doctor's herbs, but that is not idle interest. Remember digitalis and curare. I told them what each drug did, and in most cases I knew the Geneva name as well as the commercial one. I knew that codeine was derived from opium and opium from poppies. I knew that dexedrine was a sulfate, but that was all. Organic chemistry and biochemistry are not easy even with no language trouble. We got together on what a benzene ring was, Pee Wee drawing it and sticking in her $2 worth, and we managed to agree on element, isotope, half life, and the periodic table. I should have drawn structural formulas using Pee Wee's hands, but neither of us had the slightest idea of the structural formula for codeine and couldn't do it even when supplied with kindergarten toys which stuck together only in the valences of the elements they represented. Pee Wee had fun, though. They may not have learned much from her. She learned a lot from them. I don't know when I became aware that the mother thing was not, or wasn't quite, female. But it didn't matter. Being a mother is an attitude, not a biological relation. If Noah had launched his ark on Vega 5, the animals would have come in by 12s. That makes things complicated, but a mother thing is one who takes care of others. I am not sure that all mother things were the same gender. It may have been a matter of temperament. I met one father thing. You might call him governor or mayor, but parish priest or scoutmaster is closer, except that his prestige dominated a continent. He breezed in during a session with Joe, stayed 5 minutes, urged Joe to do a good job, told me to be a good boy and get well, and left, all without hurrying. He filled me with the warm self reliance that Dad does. I didn't need to be told that he was a father thing. His visit had a flavor of royalty visiting the wounded without being condescending. No doubt it was hard to work me into a busy schedule. Joe neither mothered nor fathered me. He taught me and studied me. A professor thing. Pee Wee showed up one day full of bubbles. She posed like a mannequin. Do you like my new spring outfit? She was wearing silvery tights plus a little hump like a knapsack. She looked cute, but not glamorous, for she was built like two sticks, and this get up emphasized it. Very fancy, I said. Are you learning to be an acrobat? Don't be silly, Kip. It's my new spacesuit, a real one. I glanced at Oscar, big and bulky and filling the closet, and said privately, hear that, chum? Takes all kinds to make a world. Your helmet won't fit it, will it? She giggled. I'm wearing it. You are? The Emperor's new clothes? Pretty close. Kip, disconnect your prejudices and listen. This is like the Mother Thing suit, except that it's tailored for me. My old suit wasn't much good, and that cold just about finished it. But you'll be amazed at this one. Take the helmet. It's there, only you can't see it. It's a field. Gas can't go in or out. She came close. Slap me. With what? Oh, I forgot. Kip, you've got to get well and up off that bed. I want to take you for a walk. I'm in favor. They tell me it won't be long now. It had better not be. Here, I'll show you. She hauled off and slapped herself. Her hand smacked into something inches from her face. Now watch, she went on. She moved her hands very slowly. It sank through the barrier. She thumbed her nose at me and giggled. This impressed me. A spacesuit you could reach into. Why, I would have been able to give Pee Wee water and dexedrine and sugar pills when she needed them. I'll be darned. What does it? A power pack on my back under the air tank. The tank is good for a week, too, and hoses can't give trouble because there aren't any. I suppose you blow a fuse. There you are with a lungful of vacuum. The mother thing says that can't happen. Hmm. I'd never known the mother thing to be wrong when she made a flat statement. That's not all, Pee Wee went on. It feels like skin. The joints aren't clumsy, and you're never hot or cold. It's like street clothes. You risk a bad sunburn, don't you? Unhealthy, you tell me. Unhealthy even on the moon. Oh no, the field polarizes. That's what the field is, sort of. Kip, get them to make you one. We'll go places. I glanced at Oscar. Please yourself, pal, he said distantly. I'm not the jealous type. Um, Pee-wee, I'll stick to one I understand, but I'd like to examine that monkey suit of yours. Monkey suit indeed. I woke up one morning, turned over, and realized that I was hungry. Then I sat up with a jerk. I had turned over in bed. I had been warned to expect it. The bed was a bed, and my body was back under my control. Furthermore, I was hungry, and I hadn't been hungry the whole time I had been on Vega 5. Whatever that machinery was, it included a way to nourish me without eating. But I didn't stop to enjoy the luxury of hunger. It was too wonderful to be a body again, not just a head. I got out of bed, was suddenly dizzy, recovered, and grinned. Hands! Feet! I examined those wonderful things. They were unchanged and unhurt. Then I looked more closely. No, not quite unchanged. I had had a scar on my left shin where I had been spiked at a close play at second. It was gone. I once had Mother tattooed on my left forearm at a carnival. Mother had been distressed and Dad disgusted, but he had said to leave it as a reminder not to be a witling. It was gone. There was not a callus on hand or foot. I used to bite my nails. My nails were a bit long, but perfect. I had lost the nail from my right little toe years ago through a slip with a hatchet. It was back. I looked hastily for my appendectomy scar, found it, and felt relieved. If it had been missing, I would have wondered if I was me. There was a mirror over the chest of drawers. It showed me with enough hair to warrant a guitar. I wear a crew cut, but somebody had shaved me. On the chest was $1.67, a mechanical pencil, a sheet of paper, my watch, and a handkerchief. The watch was running. The dollar bill, the paper, and the handkerchief had been laundered. My clothes, spandy clean and invisibly repaired, were on the desk. The socks weren't mine. The material was more like felt, if you will imagine felted material no thicker than Kleenex, which stretches instead of tearing. On the floor were tennis shoes like Pee-wee's, even to the US rubber trademark, but in my size. The uppers were heavier felted material. I got dressed. I was wearing the result when Pee-wee kicked the door. Anybody home? She came in bearing a tray. Want breakfast? Pee-wee, look at me. She did. Not bad, she admitted, for an ape. You need a haircut. Yes, but isn't it wonderful? I'm all together again. You were never apart, she answered, except in spots. I've had daily reports. Where do you want this? She put the tray on the desk. Pee-wee, I asked, rather hurt, don't you care that I'm well? Of course I do. Why do you think I made him let me carry your breakfast? But I knew last night they were going to uncork you. Who do you think cut your nails and shaved you? That'll be $1, please. Shaves have gone up. I got that tired dollar and handed it to her. She didn't take it. Oh, can't you take a joke? Neither a borrower nor a lender be. Polonius, he was a stupid old bore. Honest, Kip, I wouldn't take your last dollar. Now who can't take a joke? Oh, eat your breakfast. That purple juice, she said, tastes like orange juice. It's very nice. The stuff that looks like scrambled eggs is a fair substitute, and I had him color it yellow. The eggs here are dreadful, which wouldn't surprise you if you knew where you got them. The buttery stuff is vegetable fat, and I had them color it too. The bread is bread. I toasted it myself. The salt is salt, and it surprises them that we eat it. They think it's poison. Go ahead, I'm guinea pigged everything. No coffee. I won't miss it. I never touch the stuff. I'm trying to grow. Eat. Your sugar count has been allowed to drop, so you'll enjoy it. The aroma was wonderful. Where's your breakfast, Pee-wee? I ate hours ago. I'll watch and swallow when you do. The tastes were odd, but it was just what the doctor ordered, literally, I suppose. I've never enjoyed a meal so much. Presently, I slowed down to say, knife and fork, spoons. The only ones on, she vocalized the planet's name. I got tired of fingers and I play hob using what they use, so I drew pictures. This set is mine, but we'll order more. There was even a napkin, more felted stuff. The water tasted distilled and not aerated. I didn't mind. Pee-wee, how did you shave me? Not even a nick. Little gizmo that beats a razor all hollow. I don't know what they use it for, but if you could patent it, you'd make a fortune. Aren't you going to finish that toast? Uh, I had thought that I could eat the tray. No, I'm full. Then I will. She used it to mop up the butter, then announced, I'm off. Where? To suit up. I'm going to take you for a walk. She was gone. The hall outside did not imitate ours, where it would not be seen from the bed. Then I will. She used it to mop up the butter, then announced, I'm off. Where? To suit up. I'm going to take you for a walk. She was gone. And we'll follow Kim on his walk next time.